Castor oil is an anti-inflammatory. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name's Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. So today's video is going to be about castor oil. It's a little bit off topic of carnivore, but it's something that you might find beneficial because even carnivores still have to deal with some inflammation. Now, the benefit you'll notice with castor oil when you're a carnivore, we'll get this right off the table first and foremost, is it's what our great-grandparents and our grandparents and some of our parents, my parents are in their mid-80s, so they remember these days. Castor oil was often used as a laxative. A little goes a long way, so you have to be very cautious, and apparently it works rather quickly. It's something that you might want to use in case you're on carnivore and in case you're dealing with constipation. Now, I'm a firm believer, even though I'm on a carnivore diet, certain seed oils used typically topically for me, but certain plant-based foods like teas, as an example, can be medicinal. If I have a gout attack, which I haven't had in years, but if I was to have a gout attack, I would take whatever I needed in supplement form, and if that's derived from celery or it's derived from garlic or whatever it is, I'm going to use that to try and manage my pain. Certain parts of the plant kingdom, I think, are beneficial to us for more medicinal reasons. And castor oil is a good example of this. You want to get a cold pressed, just like you're buying coconut oil or olive oil, you want extra virgin cold pressed castor oil. And you want to get, sometimes I know you can get ones that are hexane free, and you want to get some of this if you have any repetitive stress injuries. So as a massage therapist, this is where I found this to be really beneficial, repetitive stress injuries. So my original lesson I learned in castor oil was when I was in massage therapy college back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And in my hydrotherapy class, which was one of my better classes that I did well in, one of the things we learned in that class for home therapy, for hydrotherapy, is using hot and cold and water to help heal the body and promote healing. One of the things we learned about was castor oil. And I remember thinking, give me a freaking break. This is nonsense. This is like an old wives' tale. And so we learned that, how to make these castor oil packs, and I didn't touch it. I didn't use it for about 15 years afterwards. So I just thought it was a bunch of hoopla. I thought it was nonsense. I just never used it in my practice. And I thought, why would I bother with that? Like, I'll just use hot and cold water, whether it's with compresses or ice or a heating pad, and you can get a lot of healing done with that. Now, I've been surprised with how amazing oils work for different things for the body. So I have a little scab on my nose right here, and I tried everything for it. This happened about 10 years ago, and I tried everything for it. I tried all sorts of antibiotic creams. I eventually got to that point. I tried washing it religiously. I tried hydrogen peroxide. I tried antibacterial soap as well as regular soap. I tried all sorts of things to try and manage this. I tried keeping it covered. I tried using creams on it just to keep it moisturized. The problem was my CPAP mask was always tearing that wound open every time I was taking it off my nose. So every morning it was a fresh wound. And it got to the point after a month of trying everything that this was extremely red almost the whole time. And then after a month, the redness went under my eye. And after all that time of trying all those stupid things, nothing was working. So short of going to the doctor to get a strong antibiotic for this, I was like really getting frustrated. And one night my ex-wife said to me, why don't you just use lavender oil? And I was like, why? She said, lavender oil is good for drying out inflammation. It's really what it's beneficial for. And I was like, well, I got nothing else to try. Why not? So that night I put a few drops of lavender oil, just a few drops of lavender oil on my nose, and I rubbed a little bit under where the redness was because the swelling was kind of dripping down, not dripping down, but it was draining under my eye. And now this area was getting swollen. So I put some lavender oil there, and just the oil evaporating was actually burning my eye a little bit, but I was like, oh, my eye's going to be closed anyway. But I could feel it as it was evaporating, just that feeling on my eyeball. So I went to sleep, woke up the next day, and it was completely clean. It was like a perfectly clean cut. All the inflammation went away, and I opened my eyes to the benefits of these oils. And there's lots of different oils that do lots of things. And I'm not trying to sell anything here, but eventually she had repetitive strain injury in her elbow, and I was doing massage and acupuncture for it, and nothing was working. When people have repetitive strain injuries and they keep going back to what's aggravating their problem to begin with, it's often an uphill battle to try and get it to go away. So after a while, I was thinking, we're not really making great progress on this. I got to think of something else we could do. So I went back in my old notes and I found in my hydrotherapy booklet that little area on castor oil. And I thought, well, you know, Hail Mary pass, why not? So we did a castor oil compress and it got rid of the tennis elbow within just a few applications. I'm going to tell you later on in the video how to do a castor oil pack. It's very easy. And I've even used it on myself. So I've treated plantar fasciitis with it. So most of these conditions, I don't even treat them anymore. I just tell the people when they come in, go home and do this home therapy. And I'm almost positive it'll take care of it. If it doesn't, book back in with me. Some people want to do it in conjunction with their therapy, and I try and actually talk them out of it because it's almost a waste of their money because castor oil works that well. So it's actually cost me money throughout the years, but it's one of those therapies that people can use at home to manage lots of their own inflammatory issues. So I first started using it for plantar fasciitis. And that's where your feet feel like you're walking on glass for the first few steps in the morning. It's really painful when you get out of bed. If you've been sitting or lying down for a while and then you go to get up and your feet are really sore, that's typically plantar fasciitis. It starts to ease off a little bit once you move and warm up the tissues. So plantar fasciitis, the bottom side of your foot, the plantar side of your foot is inflamed, and that's the itis, so plantar fasciitis. And you make a castor oil wrap and compress and you cover your feet with it at night, and then within a few applications, it manages it extremely well. I've also had those results with the golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. That's medial and lateral epicondylitis. I've had that work for shin splints. That blew me away because it's getting to the point where I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to try it for almost anything. It also works for carpal tunnel syndrome. And the one thing you want to keep in mind is you just got to do these compresses. And the best part about these compresses is so you don't burn through a lot of your castor oil is you take that compress off in the morning and you put it in a baggie in the fridge and reuse it the next day. You should be able to get weeks out of that one compress. Every now and then you might have to add a little bit of extra castor oil to it, but overall it's really easy home therapy to do. So this is crazy. I did this just last week. I have a client that went into open heart surgery a few years ago, and they mentioned their hemorrhoids were horrible afterwards because they were lying in that position, reclined for all that time, and it was putting a lot of pressure on them because they were lying back, and it really aggravated their hemorrhoids. Now, something I haven't mentioned too much in my videos is I have hemorrhoids. I got hemorrhoids when I first went zero carb because I was also doing zero fat. And actually, that was when they got bad. I had them years ago, but they sort of came and went. And it was no big deal to me because it was nothing that was consistent. But when I first went zero carb and I was doing zero fat, it aggravated my digestive system. And that was back in 2013 and 2014. And the reason why I stopped was because of the hemorrhoids, because I lie on my back at night and it was getting too uncomfortable to sleep. It was actually getting that bad, just the pressure. I've had them on and off for all these years, and usually they don't hurt. Sometimes they do. But here's the crazy thing. Last week I thought, oh man, I don't want to go through what that guy went through with hemorrhoids and open heart surgery because mine's coming up really soon. And so I used it topically, and within 2 days it went away. I couldn't believe it. Now it's deflated. It's still technically there, but it's deflated completely. So it's like you have that shell of the hemorrhoid, but you don't have anything filling up that sac, so the pain is dramatically better. The interesting thing is I had no idea if it would work. So I know that is a little bit too much information for some people, but everyone knows someone with a condition like that. Most likely, people just don't talk about it, but this is something you'll find beneficial. I have a friend who has a frozen shoulder, and they won't try it though, unfortunately. They're just kind of digging their heels in. They'd rather live with the pain than try and do one of these compresses. And the compress is as simple as this. I'll explain it now. You take a white cotton flannel rag, so you can use an old t-shirt as an example. You drizzle some castor oil on that. You don't want it dripping wet. You want to be slightly on the conservative side, if anything, with it. Now, when you do that, keep in mind, you're going to be placing it against your skin, and castor oil is a thick oil, but you have to remember your body temperature is going to warm it up, and you are going to have that oil run. It's going to thin out and it's going to run. So you want to make sure when you're going to bed at night and you're doing this castor oil compress, you have a towel underneath you so you don't stain your sheets. So you're going to take this rag that has it lightly drizzled on there, not enough that it's dripping. You definitely don't want it that wet. And you're going to put that over the area that's inflamed. Then you're going to put saran wrap around that. Then depending on what you're doing. If it's for your foot, you can just put a sock over all of that. If it's your arm, you can put a tensor bandage around it or a long sleeve shirt or sweater when you go to sleep at night, and just keep that covered. You want that warmth. So remember that you want to keep that warm at night, and which is weird because keeping something warm when you have inflammation normally isn't the way to go. It's really contraindicated, but I'm telling you, this is how it works, and it works really well. I did it for my own tennis elbow just about a month ago, and I was blown away. Within just a few applications, my tennis elbow went away. Blew my mind. So it's simple. There's really 3 layers. Some people like using it as a liver detox. There's a variety of different conditions you can use castor oil for. I just want you to remember there's 3 important steps. The pack, which is the cloth with the castor oil on it, the saran wrap around it, and sometimes it might even be okay to just use a really, really thin bag and put that over the area to save yourself from having to kind of mess around with saran wrap if you live on your own. And then the piece of material over top of that. Now, a tensor bandage is good if it's something you're using on your arm, or say it's your knee. You want to keep it warm. You can just put a tensor bandage around it, and you don't want it tight. It's just there to keep everything in place. You want to make sure the plastic is overlapping the wrap. So if the wrap is this long, you want to make sure the saran wrap or the plastic you're using is a few inches overextended from the rag. It's going to leak, right? So you want to try and prevent that. And then you're going to put the final layer over that. And then you're going to see, after hopefully just a few applications, a dramatic difference. The best part about this is good quality castor oil is a little bit on the expensive side, but you're paying like $30 or $40 for a little bottle of oil. But you can reuse that rag, so it's going to last a really long time. So trust me, just get a nice small bottle. It'll last. You'll be able to use this for lots of different things. On top of the fact, if you're dealing with constipation, it's something good to use just to help get things moving. So you don't want to rely on that for constipation, but it's something you can use when you need to. Anyway, thanks a lot. I hope you found this video beneficial and helpful. Take care.